Hi everyone! Today I'm starting a new series on the topic of MBTI types, and namely I'm going to be talking about relationships. I'm going to take different pairs of different types within the MBTI system and discuss what their relationship could look like, what can be some things that are easy for them and what could be some things that are difficult for them, or some aspects that they might need to work on in order to improve the quality of the relationship. And today I'm starting with the first video on the series, namely the potential romantic relationship between an ENTP and an ISFJ. So all about that in the next few minutes. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's dive in. So, ENTP and ISFJ. It's not normally a relationship that you would normally describe as the most compatible one, because we know the classical theory is that types that have the same dominant function, as in they both are dominant intuitives or thinkers or feelers or sensors, makes it easier. However, when they seem to be quite opposite, this can be a challenge, at least in the way a lot of theoretical models talk about. In my personal opinion, I believe that people who share more cognitive function similarity generally have a little bit of an easier time in communicating with each other and understanding each other. And this is something that happens to be the case for these two types as well, because they are from the same group, they are from the same quadra, they both have the FETI axis and the NESI axis. What does this mean? Well, it means that the two types have a shared way of understanding the world. Their extroverted intuition and introverted sensing pairing means that they have a similar ability to filter information from the outside world, perceive it, and make sense of it. Sure, one of them scores much higher on NE and the other one on SI, but the overall axis, or let's say the little wheels that they're using in their minds, are very similar, and therefore they might have a similar way of relating and interpreting the world around them. At the same time, because they both have FE and TI, this means that the two types also can have a similarity in terms of their decision-making process, in terms of what kind of information they prioritize in the way that they make decisions. And especially here, even more so than for the NESI axis, because ENTPs and ISFJs have FE and TI that are a little bit more balanced, it is a little bit easier for them to make decisions in a balanced way between FE and TI, and in a way that is similar to one another. In John Beebe's model, when he talks about the four main cognitive functions, he describes our second and third function, so the parent and the child function, and as our two hands, and the other axis between our hero and our inferior function as the more vertical line. And so you can see how ENTP and ISFJ are similar in this respect. It's just that their hands are switched and the top and the bottom is also switched, but they operate on the same vertical line and on the same horizontal line, or the line of their hands. So the idea is that the material that these two types are made of is actually a very similar one. Imagine that you're in a factory and you're producing something and you're using the same raw materials, but maybe you put them in a slightly different order, and so the result is a little bit different. But fundamentally it comes from the same source. So due to these similarities, there's a great potential here for understanding and communication. However, there's also a great potential for intense triggering. Why? Well, referring back to Carl Jung's theoretical framework as well, we know that the inferior function is also something that we associate with our animus or anima. So ENTPs have SI, introverted sensing, as their animus or anima, and ISFJs have extroverted intuition in this situation. The inferior function is a sensitive spot, and it's something that we tend to develop a little bit later in life. Earlier in our life, we might be more focused on our hero function and our parent function, and those might be a bit stronger. Even the child function can come up a little bit more. However, the inferior function is a sensitive, tricky area. It's also the gateway to our unconscious mind. And so there's a lot of potential there that can come up, but it doesn't necessarily come up or come out in a way that is actually helpful and healing and supporting for a lot of people, especially when they are younger. And so ENTPs can trigger the NE inferior spot of ISFJs, and ISFJs can trigger the inferior SI of the ENTP. How can this look like? Well, if we go with stereotypes, and an ISFJ shows up in a relationship by being more traditionalistic, being more focused on doing things in a way that society approves of, also due to the FE, ENTPs can get a bit triggered and annoyed and say, well, I want to do things differently. I want to do things my own way. I don't just want to follow what society tells me to do. And they might rebel against this. But actually, this can come from a trigger where deep down the ENTP might also value these things. Deep down the ENTP might also want these things in their lives, but their ego defenses are kind of stopping them from doing that. I'm not saying this is the case always, but it can come up quite often in such a dynamic. On the other hand, when an ENTP brings their natural entertaining attitude, their enthusiasm, their desire to explore different things and a variety of opportunities, this can be quite triggering for the ISFJ whose NE gets triggered. And so due to this situation, the ISFJ might feel that they cannot trust the ENTP because they are not stable enough, they are not consistent enough, they are not grounded enough. And again, they might try to resist that. Whereas deep down, their animus or anima might be looking for the same things. And deep down, the ISFJ might be desiring the same things. And again, their ego defenses might be getting in the way of that. So this is something to pay attention to whenever we have types where the dominant and inferior functions are swapped, because they can trigger each other very easily in this way. And if you are in such a relationship and you notice yourself feeling a lot of anger and perhaps also a little bit of fear or anxiety when your partner does something that is quite stereotypical for their dominant function or says something around those lines, it might be a good opportunity for you to sit with that and check with yourself. Is it really your partner that is doing something wrong, or does it have more to do with your personal insecurities, your personal triggers, the elements related to you that need a little bit more attention? Because sometimes this can be a tremendous opportunity for growth. Interacting on a deeper emotional level with people who are in this kind of pairing with us can actually help us a lot in growing as individuals and in the process of individuation, after all. The ISFJ can learn from the ENTP to be a little bit more open to new experiences and new ideas. They can learn to trust uncertainty and spontaneity a little bit more. They can learn to accept other perspectives, other ways of looking at reality, even though they are a little bit more abstract than what they're normally used to, because this will balance out other parts of their selves. At the same time, the ENTP can learn from the ISFJ to be a little bit more grounded, a little bit more connected to themselves, to their bodies, to society, after all. They can learn to contribute in a more consistent, disciplined way to the family that they are part of, or to the workplace that they are part of, the community that they are part of. And their SI can help them do that. A lot of ENTPs that I know complain that they struggle with taking things to completion, that they get bored and distracted once they start a new project, especially professionally. And they are looking for ways to get better at this, to stop kind of getting in their own way. And having a relationship, whether it's a romantic one, a friendship one, or even a professional one with an ISFJ, for example, can be a way for an ENTP to strengthen that part of themselves, the one that keeps them grounded, keeps them stable. In a very superficial way, we can even call it the J within the ENTP. The part of them that kind of connects them more to what it is that they have to do, what their duties and responsibilities are, not just what their passion and enthusiasm dictates. The passion and enthusiasm is amazing and it's wonderful and it's one of the greatest gifts that ENTPs can bring into the world, but the consistency, the stability, the structure is also important. And so this is a wonderful way in which these two types can help and complement each other. Of course, similar things can be said about FE and TI in their case and the dynamic between these two functions. But because these functions are more balanced, the triggers will not be quite as strong. And actually, the child function in us, when it sees it as a little bit stronger, as a hero or a parent function in someone else, this can also be a great element of attraction. So the TI child in ISFJ can be very attracted to the TI parent in the ENTP, and vice versa. The FE child in the ENTP can be very attracted to the FE parent in ISFJ, and this is another wonderful way to strengthen these functions. Think about the parent supporting the child. So the FE parent in the ENTP can support the FE child in the ISFJ, and the TI parent in the ENTP can nurture the TI child in the ISFJ. And this can also kind of strengthen the decision-making process. So in this way, this couple can actually both bring value when they make important decisions for themselves, for their relationship, for their future, for their children, if children are part of the picture, because the elements that they both bring can be very helpful and complementary. Okay, so these are some of my thoughts. Of course, there's much more to say, but I wanted to give you an overview on what I believe are some of the most important things to take into account, both positive and difficult, in the relationship between ENTP and ISFJ. I'm going to continue this series with many more other videos on other pairings, so tune in for that. And also, I just wanted to remind you guys that I am a professional coach accredited by the International Coaching Federation with a background in psychology and psychotherapy, and I offer self-awareness coaching sessions aimed at supporting you in your self-awareness journey. So if you're interested in finding out more, check the link in the description below. Thank you very much, and see you next time with another video on typology.